Succession planning, oh my goodness. I was asked to do a presentation on this topic at our national conference last year, and there is nothing out there to help us with succession planning. I went to the library, I went on the internet, and so I'm just going to tell you a few things that I think are helpful, that you may not have thought of. But at the end of the day, I also have to stand here and tell you, for the first time in 10 years, I sit on a 3-person board, which is usually 5, because we were not able to find 2 people this year to run. So, and other years, I've stood up here and told you how democracy is alive and well at Stonecrest, because we have 7 people running for 5 positions. So, you know, it is what it is. There's a theory, though, that presidents burn out or fade away. And so some people like to have a rule or a regulation or a policy that they have as a term for a president. I never have been in favor of sunset clauses, ever. It didn't matter if it was in my professional life or as a volunteer on a board. I don't believe in them. Because I think if a person is doing a good job and no one else is there to fulfill the role, and they wanted to stay, why wouldn't we want to keep them? But there are a lot of people that, in condos, and certainly nationally I found that out, that really believe in that it encourages growth at the board level, and that a scheduled president change is a good thing. I'm sure that I have a few owners at Stonecrest that would agree with that as well. But then I have people saying, I don't know, I couldn't do what you do, and blah, blah, blah. So you're always going to have, you know, people that are supportive of what you're doing, and you're always going to have people that aren't. But if you did want to have a policy, you could define a time limit for the president's role. And if it works, it works. I've seen a few faces here that are here year after year after year. And I'm not encouraging that, because I personally am not in favor of sunset clauses. So succession planning is an ongoing process of identifying, assessing, and developing people to ensure the continuity of the board. Earlier I talked about open forums, and we had one at our condo last week, and some guy stood up and asked, what was I doing to ensure that people were going to run for the board this year? And, you know, is that my job? Partly it is the board's job, unless you want to be there forever. But isn't it all of the owner's responsibility to ensure that people are running for the board? But I do think we can't be left scrambling when someone departs unexpectedly. For example, what would happen if one of our board members suddenly became ill? We have no quorum. So I guess we would either have to appoint someone, find someone willing, then appoint, and or hold a general meeting. But you have to have a process in place. Mickey.
What do you do? We're presently just going to be starting looking at a procedure for this whole area of succession, where people are getting people to apply for the board. Basically, I think what happens in our situation now, they know that every year either 3 or 2 positions become open, because we're on 2-year terms. The question has been, how do they know if it's open, you should be able to run for the board, and you run against the incumbent that's there. So the question that we're dealing with right now, what do you do to communicate to your owners, or do you let them know who's staying on and who's leaving? That seems to be the thing, that if you're staying on, then they're not going to run against you, kind of thing. So what do you, even though everybody knows it's a 3-year and a 2-year term, do you do anything to communicate to people in terms of actually how many positions are open?
Yes, we do. Well, a week before the AGM, we have a candidates forum, and we make it, and everyone's invited to come, and we make it very clear at that, prior to that, how many people are running. We put their resumes on the bulletin board, and everyone knows by the time they get to that candidates forum. We also allow, I don't believe our bylaws talk about it, but we allow candidates to come forward right up until call to order at the AGM. After call to order, we say no, they're not allowed to put their name on the ballot. But they all know long before the AGM how many people are up for election. And actually, people campaign. Obviously not this year, but people campaign.
Okay, ours is 5 days before the AGM. They have to make known that they're going to run. That's what our nomination papers say at this point. So when you're saying about the candidates forum, that includes incumbents and new candidates.
Yes, yeah. And it's great. It really is. And people ask questions. It's really good. You get some of the, okay, I'm cognizant of the fact that this is being podcast or being filmed. You get the nasty people coming out to the candidates forum and asking the questions too, you know. And we all have a dark side, even if it's, you know, somebody said, and it's so true, we spend 80% of our time on 2% of our owners. And there's lots of nods around the room. Yes, we do. One of the things that suddenly struck me last year is, and we do this sometimes, and I hope I haven't done it today, sometimes we do it at the President's Forum. I'm probably guilty, some of you are too. We go, oh, so hard being on the board and being a president and blah, and you know, or you get up in front of your owners and tell them, you know, it's a hard job and blah. No, you got to stop doing that because you're going to be there forever if you keep doing that. You have to make it fun. And you know what? I am so busy in my retired life, but I have a rule, and I chair 3 boards right now. If it isn't fun, I'm not doing it. And so I think it has to be fun. We actually have a board member on our board that just looks so forward to our board meetings. She really does. So you do have to make it fun. You have to make it enjoyable. You have to share the rewards with the owners. You know, you learn so much. I've learned so much about condominiums. I've met some wonderful people. Most importantly, I'm honest. I have a say in how my home is being run. And that's important to me. It isn't important to everyone. I think it is important, but I think as long as they have confidence in their board, then they don't feel the need to run. And some people are just plain afraid to run. You know, they just are. But I have a little bit of information here that I think is interesting. According to surveys, even today, less than 50% of public and private corporate boards have succession plans in place. And less than 16% of boards of directors report that their board is effective at succession planning, and that's in the business world. So volunteer and nonprofit boards must have an even more difficult time based on those statistics. And like I said, people don't usually volunteer for a mostly thankless job, nor for the high salaries we're all paid as board directors, right? So what can we do? We can make it fun. But convince people who you think are appropriate and are capable. We have a lady that lives where I live, and she's going to be dynamite. And we've been grooming her, and I don't think she's ready. She's working full-time, but she is excited about coming on the board of directors. And you have to do that. You have to approach people that you think are knowledgeable and have a skill set that you need. And by the way, you don't always need a skill set. My particular skill set when I came on the board was I knew how boards were supposed to run, and I knew how to chair a meeting. And that was important to me because previously, and I'm not chastising anyone that does this, but our condo board hired a lawyer to chair our annual meetings, and I thought that was kind of crazy. I think similarly, when you're looking for a president, you look for someone that has the skills to chair a meeting. And sometimes the chair has unpleasant tasks to do. I've had to speak to board members about, you know, inappropriate behavior. You have to have the skill set to be able to fulfill that role. And sometimes I get it. Sometimes you don't find someone and you are required to hire legal counsel to chair your meeting. And so I'm not admonishing anyone for doing that. I'm just saying that if you have someone, go after them. Go after anyone that has communication skills, accounting skills, public speaking, obviously, technical or technology skills. Oh my goodness, that would not be me. I think I'm pretty good on my iPad and my iPhone, and that's about it. So look for those people. Look for people who have personality and passion and are committed to your condominium community. We have lots of those. So firstly, you might as a board want to develop a list of skills that might be required, and then kind of look for those people. And we are in the process now. Here we are, September. Our annual meeting will be in May, and we're sitting and having those conversations about who we can approach to run next year. And then we have to attract them. And as I said, it can't be by saying, oh my God, you will never guess all the issues. And, and I think some of us are guilty of doing that all the time. I think people don't leave organizations, they leave bad leadership. So, and goodness sakes, we don't have to look too far. We could just look a little bit south for bad leadership. And that was not supposed to be political, and create a positive culture. That's so important. We already know how many directors are required. We need 2 next year, as long as the other 3 of us are willing to stay on. Develop an inventory of what our current directors have, what skills they have. Our treasurer is like the best treasurer in the world. She can never leave the board. And develop a continuous list of who might be eligible or who might be willing. We're starting to do a little bit of that at the CCI board, talking to people and, saying, where do you see yourself in the future? Because I'm going to be brutally honest. Our CCI board is made up of 15 people, and just like any other board, we have some people that work really hard, and we have a few chair warmers, and we have people that just aren't able professionally to commit to something that maybe I could as a retired person. Yes?
I know you have a number of rental, non-resident owners. Are non-resident owners allowed to be on the board in your?
We don't, the Condo Act, I believe, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong, says that it must be an owner unless otherwise stated in your bylaws. Our bylaws state that it can be a non-owner. We don't, you might be getting us confused with Greystone. We probably only have about 10 rental units out of 177.
Wow.
But the next, the condo next to us, Greystone, it's a lot of rental units. But yes, we do. And our property manager has advised us, and I think it's good advice, not to ever change that in the bylaws, because at some point, who knows? I'm standing here telling you there's only 3 of us now. At some point we may want to have, Mrs. Smith's daughter, who's quite involved in the community. We might want her to be on the board if, It's succession planning. You're going to leave here and say, what did she tell us? Well, really not very much, because it's not an easy problem to solve. There's not that much information out there. It's not like, a few of you have been really successful at it and you've shared it with us, and if you have been, please do so. But while you're at it, if you can afford it, consider bringing in a facilitator to talk to your board about team building, about strategic planning, about succession planning. We at CCI do that, and I was actually quite surprised at how little it costs us to have an afternoon with a facilitator. We do a full 4 hours in the afternoon, and we bring in lunch, and we're spending, for a 15-person board, not all of whom attend, we're spending probably about $500. So, there's always that idea. But in any case, make that list, develop a policy. And someone once told me when I was retiring 10 years ago, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was, leave the organization in a good place. don't leave when you're mad, leave when you're happy. And always, always, always hope that the person coming after you is doing a bang-up job. And I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. I can tell you after 10 years of being retired, and as some of you know, I was the president of the Manitoba Nurses Union. I couldn't be happier with the president today, Darlene Jackson. She's doing a phenomenal job. And I see her on TV and I think, you're better than I was. And you know what? That's what we want to do with our boards. We live there, so we want people to, we want them to be successful, and we have to try and help them be successful. So, wow, I can't believe I talked all that time. And I hope it was interesting, yes.
I just wanted to say one thing about succession. I've only been in our building for a year. I've taken on the role of a board member, and I think they threw me in to be president, and I'm not sure whether it's to get rid of me or to kill me. But
well, guaranteed one or the other.
But the thing that I found is, like, once I got onto the board, I went into the files to find out what had been done in this building before, and there was nothing. Like, there was no correspondence of any kind since 2017. So I have been really fighting, trying to find out. And if it wasn't for these two ladies here who are no longer on the board, I wouldn't have known that in 2008 we painted balconies and stuff. And only because they've kept this information is it available. So keep records. Have a record of what's been done in the building by years, so that your successors know what's been done, and you're not going to go back and rewrite the book, you know.
I would totally agree with that. I believe in keeping the talent you have. And I also think it's good to have a historian on the board, somebody that knows what happened, somebody that says, oh yeah, we did that. If there's continuity with your property manager, and there happens to be where I live, then that's another good resource for knowing the history of what's gone on. Any other questions? Did you want to? Alrighty. Okay, so first of all, I want to thank all of you. I particularly want to thank Krista and Connie. Honestly, there wouldn't have been a Lunch and Learn without these two amazing ladies. And they're two of the people I talk about when I say keep the talent you have. They can never leave the CCI board, ever. ever. They're so passionate and committed, and they've already got very busy lives, and they give so much. Okay, we're all good. We're going to see all of you at the AGM next Thursday. It's going to be fantastic. Okay, lots of the thing that we all love, wine and cheese, and door prizes, and the AGM, and it's all going to be good. And then the President's Forum a week later. Thank you for coming.